Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, death is one of those subjects that is just uncomfortable, and a lot of families never get around to talking about it. But in the era of COVID-19, you really need to. We'll be talking to an estate planning expert next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox. Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we've had just hundreds of thousands of sudden deaths in America. And for many of those families, they weren't prepared for it. And the last thing you want to do is put your family through even more headaches after your death because you haven't done your job, which is plan for your own death, which I'm sorry, we can't escape it. To talk about that today, Krupa Downs, she's with Krupa Downs Law. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah. Before we get into COVID-19 and estate planning, I want to tell the audience about you. We got to know each other through Rotary and have known each other for more than a decade. And Chris is just one of the kindest people I've ever met. And so you're one of these lawyers who also has great people skills. And you were telling me that you learned it at a post office working for your mom.
I did. I learned it at a post office working for my mom, Jeff. So to channel Sophia from the Golden Girls, because I might be streaming that right now because of COVID-19, picture this. Big Lake, Alaska, little tiny town outside of Westland, Alaska in the 80s. My parents moved up there, and my mom got a job running the contract post office in Big Lake, Alaska. And she needed labor. She needed help to unload the mail from the truck and put it in the people's boxes, the weekly newspapers, helping them send a certified mail, buy a stamp, log packages. She needed labor. So my sister and I had to go do this job with my mom on vacations and summer vacations and everything. But the skill I got out of that was amazing because, you know, here I am, I'm like 14 years old and I'm doing this, but I'm having an opportunity to interact with people in a small town, but doing that one-on-one, and you're having to learn to smile and be nice and learn how to make change when someone wants to buy a stamp. So yeah, that really kind of set that people skill and how to interact.
And that's so important in your field, because I know in law school they don't teach lawyers bedside manners or how to interact with people, and especially when you're dealing with families in a time of grief. I mean, those people skills really pay off, don't they?
I think they do. They really do. People want to feel that you connected with them. We want to feel that we're connected with someone. So what I want to do as part of my practice is make them feel connected. I want to get to know them. I want to ask who they are as people. What do you love to do? Do you love to travel? I want to grieve with them. I have this rule that when I help a client through a death, they don't cry alone. I will cry with them. Right now it's over Zoom a lot, but when we were doing in-person stuff, it was usually I'm that one who's out of my pocket. I'm pulling the package of tissues and handing it off because it's important. It's personal. They have to feel like who they're talking to talk about the legal issues of how an estate transfers. What do we need to do from a paperwork standpoint? How long does the process take? I really feel they have to feel like they're connected to the person helping them.
Wow. I can see why you're so successful. In fact, you've been featured as one of the super lawyers. Let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. Very cool. What does that feel like to be honored in that way?
Surreal. What did I do to deserve that type of honor when I feel like I'm just being me and doing my thing?
Yes, and it has to be very rewarding. I know there's a lot of different areas of law you could practice, but you've chosen one that allows you to sleep well at night knowing that you've helped a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's some testimonials that we're going to put up on the screen as well, because you've received some great accolades, and when it comes from clients, that means more than anything else. Amazing to work with. Tell me your process when you meet with a family for the first time. What's it like?
If I put myself in the shoes of the family when I meet with them, I think they're probably a little scared and intimidated. They're talking about death, and for whatever reason, they haven't talked about it before. And so a lot of times when someone says, gosh, I should have done this years ago, I always say to them, it doesn't matter what you should have done years ago. We're talking about it now, and it'll be okay. And I really try to put myself in their shoes, but have them connect with me as a person too. And how I do that, Jeff, is I freely share stories from my own life and experiences. I'll talk about being a second marriage and a blended family and how that can impact estate planning, what could happen if we didn't plan in particular ways. I'll talk about my love for travel, the love of supporting my community through volunteer work. So if someone's charitably inclined, we can talk about how maybe they can leave gifts through their estate planning to their charities of choice. So I feel like it's that personal touch, really, where it's not a transaction. It's not just here, fill in this questionnaire, let me take it and draft a will for you. It's really one-on-one, getting to know them. They get to know me.
Sure.
And we really get to connect and bond.
Tell me how you deal with disputes, because sometimes death can bring out the worst in people, and fighting over what mom or dad would have wanted. I'm sure you hear this a lot.
I do hear this a lot. I try to avoid those kinds of disputes by helping my clients really plan and express to them that if they feel that there might be a dispute, that they share with their family what their plan is. It can be private. You don't have to do that, but you can get ahead of that by sharing information and trying to say, this is what I planned and this is what I want, so that hopefully your family remembers that. And if we get a family that ends up having a fight because they did not like the way a will was written, I'm going to send them to some really great attorneys who do that kind of contested
Do you recommend that all families have, I don't know if it's an envelope with all the information and here's where the safety deposit boxes are?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I actually will just call it a death folder because I have one, and to me that's really what it is. And it's the roadmap that we're leaving behind to someone. So if you were my executor of my estate, I need to leave you the tools in which to do that job. And the tools are, who would you call? Here's information. If I have benefits and retirement plans, here's 800 numbers. Here's where I have bank accounts. Where is my original will? Is it in a safe deposit box? Which, as an aside, I don't really recommend that unless you have someone else on your safe deposit box. Because if I put my will in a safe deposit box, Jeff, you're my executor, but you have no idea that I have a safe deposit box, really good possibility that you'll never find my will. So I've got to make sure you know where it is.
Yes. Yes.
And that you have access to it.
Let's talk about COVID-19, because
Sure.
you mentioned Zoom meetings. Was that an adjustment for you?
It was an adjustment for us. As estate planning attorneys, I'll speak for my colleagues in it. I don't know that we saw a downturn in our business with the pandemic. I think, in fact, we saw more clients seeing the need to get things taken care of. But we want to social distance and protect those clients and ourselves. So a lot of us have shifted to virtual meetings where we'll get to meet the clients virtually to understand their plan. And then we'd still recommend signing in person because it needs notaries and it needs a witness. And there's some formalities that, while we have a governor's order that allows some of that to be done electronically, there's still a benefit to doing a social distance signing that will take like 15 minutes. Let's spend 2-3 hours on Zoom figuring things out. Let's then jump back on another Zoom call to review everything, make sure we have it right, and then let's just get together in person and do what I like to call table hockey, to where we take a big table somewhere, or we do it outdoors, and you're down there as the client, I'm over here as the signer, and you're I'm passing you papers to sign, you pass them back to me.
We're almost out of time. So advice for, I'm a baby boomer, I'm 57,
Mm-hmm.
my parents are getting up there in age. Is the onus on the child to go to mom and dad and say, hey, mom and dad, just checking and make sure everything's squared away? Or how do you navigate that?
I think a lot of children do that with their parents, and they should, but you can't force mom and dad to do it. But I think you can certainly ask the questions and set the stage.
Chris, you've been a great guest. We're going to put your website up to end the segment. KrupaDownsLaw.com is the website. Chris Downs, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.